In a second, we are preparing to go live on YouTube, and then Clayton's going to pick it up and move it over to Facebook for us. So
just give me a thumbs up.
I will.
Good evening. The Committee of the Whole for November 17, 2020 is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Yamas?
Here.
Alderman Garza?
Here.
Alderman Masiacos?
Present.
Alderman Donnell?
Here.
Alderman Franco?
Here.
Alderman Seville?
Here.
Alderman Hart Burns?
Here.
Alderman Smith?
Here.
Alderman Bug?
Here.
Alderman Lopshay?
Here.
Alderman Jenkins?
Here.
Alderman O'Connor?
Here.
Mayor Irvin is present.
On June 26, 2020, the Governor of Illinois issued a statewide disaster declaration related to the public health concerns. As head of this body, I've determined that an in-person meeting or meeting otherwise conducted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act is neither practical nor prudent because of the disaster. This meeting will be conducted by internet teleconference without the physical presence of a quorum. Prior to the commencement of this meeting, all members of this body were verified they can see and hear one another. I further find the physical presence of members of the public is not feasible at this meeting due to the disaster. And more specifically, the practical difficulties associated with accommodating the public in an accessible, hygienic location that allows for appropriate social distancing. Alternative arrangements have been made to allow the public to contemporaneously hear all discussions and roll call votes live on the city's official website, on Facebook, and via Zoom teleconference. Notice of these arrangements have been given in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. The public may address this body consistent with the rules previously adopted and recorded and as adapted by mayoral order. I, Mayor Richard Irvin, am physically present at our regular meeting location as those terms are defined by Resolution R20-124. All votes shall be conducted by roll call, and a verbatim record of this meeting shall be made and maintained in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 3rd, 2020? Motion made by Alderman Hart Burns, seconded by Alderman Garza. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Yamas?
Yes.
Alderman Garza?
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos?
Yes.
Alderman Donnell?
Yes.
Alderman Franco?
Yes.
Alderman Seville?
Yes.
Alderman Hart Burns?
Yes.
Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Bug?
Yes.
Alderman Lopshay?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins?
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor?
Yes.
12 ayes.
Motion carries. The minutes are accepted. Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to offer public comment?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Let's go on to the next portion of the agenda, committee reports. Chairman Seville, can you give the BZE, Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee report, please?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee met on November 13th, 2020. The first three items on your agenda are related. The first one is 20-0275, an ordinance establishing a special use plan development, approving the Fox Valley plan description, amending ordinance number 3100, being the Aurora zoning ordinance, and the zoning map attached thereto, to an underlining zoning of R5A mid-rise multiple family dwelling district for the property located on the east side of the Fox Valley Mall, west of Route 59 and south of New York Street. The second one is 20-0276. That's a resolution approving a preliminary plan on the Lot 2 of the first three subdivision of the Fox Valley East Region 1, Unit Number 1, located on the east side of the Fox Valley Mall, west of Route 59 and south of New York Street. And the final one is 20-0286, a Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee resolution approving the final plat for Unit Number 1 of the first three subdivision of Fox Valley East Region 1, located on the east side of Fox Valley Mall, west of Route 59 and south of New York Street. We're talking about the former Sears outlet commercial building here that's proposed to be totally demolished. And what's looking to replace it for now in the parking lot would be three-story buildings. That would be a total of 304 units with 1.5 units per parking space per unit. Would be the ratio. There'll be some green space. The units range in size anywhere from 700 square feet studios up to 2 bedrooms of around 1,300 square feet, possibly with a work / den area might be added to it with the change in the people's current work habits. I think that's all I can add at this point, although the third item is the resolution. It is appealable and can be appealed by Wednesday at 5 p.m. I don't know if staff has anything to add to that, but you're welcome to it.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to the petitioner. They have a brief presentation, but just before that, I'm Tracy Vasic, Senior Planner with the Zoning and Planning Division. As you may recall, the City Council approved the Route 59 Corridor Plan in 2018. That plan stresses the importance of the Fox Valley Mall on the corridor and the larger region, and its success strengthens the city's image and identity, as well as positive benefits to the other existing businesses. Centennial Real Estate Company, the owner of the Fox Valley Mall, has been making substantial investments to the mall, and as part of those efforts, they are in for permit to demolish the Sears building to make way for the future retail and residential development. The final plat, special use plan development with the underlining zoning of R5A and the preliminary plan for the multifamily residential development that is before you tonight is the first phase within the Fox Valley sub-area of the Route 59 corridor plan. The development is consistent with the plan's recommendation to modernize the mall from a traditional commercial center into a mixed-use development that includes a variety of land uses, including multifamily housing. Staff is very pleased with the development team that Centennial has put together for this project. The team includes a combination of local and national consultants that bring high-end architectural skills and are creative thinking to this project. I will turn it over to the petitioner. They do have a brief presentation for you. I think John Michelle will start it off.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Alderman. Good afternoon. Like Tracy said, my name is John Michelle, Senior Vice President of Development with Centennial Real Estate. We're the owners of the Fox Valley Mall. We're very excited to be here before all of you this afternoon. As we previously stated at the Planning Commission and the BZE Committee, these meetings represent a major milestone in the history of the Fox Valley Mall as we formally embark on the most significant redevelopment of the campus since it was developed in the mid-1970s. I've been redeveloping enclosed mall assets my entire career, and I was specifically brought in by Centennial 18 months ago to help lead the effort here in Aurora. We have assembled a best-in-class partnership and an extremely talented design team to help design and implement an amazing redevelopment project. This afternoon, we're going to share with you how Fox Valley Mall plans to start its evolution towards its mixed-use future while operating and maintaining its position as one of the city's most important commercial assets. It's important that Centennial undertake these changes while continuing to offer the exciting options that presently exist at the mall, the interior portions of which we've been renovating and rejuvenating since last year. As we embark on this modernization process, the process of adding new and modern retail and other uses that will revitalize the campus in ways that are consistent with the Route 59 corridor plan, we plan to start by demolishing the former Sears building. The demolition of this obsolete building paves the way for the specific project that we will describe this afternoon and for future projects. Over the last year, our team and the city's amazing staff have collaborated to produce a vision for the property that we are extremely excited about. Confident that all of you will also find this vision exciting and consistent with the city's vision for the Route 59 corridor. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce to you our partners, Atlantic Residential and Focus Development. Atlantic is represented this evening by Mitzi Jones and Matt Shashow, Focus by Tim Anderson, Justin Pillay, and Vicki Lee. With that, I will turn it over to Mitzi Jones and say thank you.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Mayor and City. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Mitzi Jones with Atlantic Residential. We're very excited about this proposed project. It's an exciting opportunity for our team. We feel that we are on the leading edge of a national trend of incorporating housing into the traditional commercial and retail mall environments, extending the life and success of these properties. We are able to create a live, work, play experience similar to what we see in more urban settings. The residents benefit from the walkability of the retail and restaurants, and the retail and commercial components are re-energized by the influx of residents, their families, and friends. Now, to tell you a little bit more about the Atlantic and Focus teams. Atlantic Residential, we're a multifamily developer and property management company. We develop approximately 7,000 units, and approximately $1.5 billion in assets. Our partner, Focus Development, is a multifamily developer and general contractor. They've built approximately $1.8 billion in new developments. The Atlantic and Focus partnership goes back to about 2004. We partnered together on about 8 projects in the Chicago area, totaling approximately 2,000 units and $700 million in developed assets. Along with the Centennial team, we are committed to creating a high-quality residential property with extraordinary attention to detail, service, and community. We are confident this team will deliver a Class A product for the city of Aurora. We are fortunate to have a great project team here with us tonight. We have Hal Frank and Steve Bauer with MPS Law, Kimley Horn, who is our civil engineer and landscape architecture consultants, Nikki, Daniel, and Rory, and Torty Gallus Partners is our architectural design team, Mike Rawson and Brandon Diamond. Now I'll turn it over to Brandon Diamond, who will present a brief project overview. Thank you for having us.
Good evening, Mayor and City. Again, my name is Brandon Diamond. I'm the Executive Director at Torty Gallus Partners and architect of the project. And tonight it's my pleasure to give you a brief overview of our proposed initial phase for Fox Valley Mall's transformation into a vibrant and walkable destination on the Route 59 corridor. The former Sears site has opened up the opportunity for a new front door for the site, offering both substantial outdoor community space and a Main Street environment neighborhood, also discussed in the Route 59 corridor study. And if we flip to the next slide, it really is just a summation of some of the high-level points from that study that we believe we've achieved very well in the plan. Certainly promoting infill development and really creating a walkable environment that really connects a lot of what are presently several disconnected parking lots in commercial sites, really pulling it together, promoting new housing with access to transit, promoting compact, walkable urban design. That's really what we're about, and a great Main Street theme for the Fox Valley Mall, as well as great outdoor gathering and experiential space. So as we flip to the next slide, we can kind of show how that is showing up. So this particular site, the phase 1 of the transformation, occupies a unique gateway position in the neighborhood development phase. So it required us to go above and beyond the simple Main Street concept to offer something very special in the way of great streets and public space. For one thing, we took the east entry alignment, and it's really, this Main Street is directing your view towards the new front door of the mall. And to make that view work out for a substantial outdoor community space to come in the next phase, we wanted to make sure that that view opens up to the mall properly. And we did that by creating great placemaking along the way between these two buildings. So basically there are 3 buildings, we call them buildings A, B, and C, that come together, approximately 304 units. Buildings A and B set up that gateway view to the urban plaza beyond and the front door east entry to the mall. And then B and C have a paseo, or a public space, that connects to the main amenity area behind. So there's a number of public spaces that are on full public view from the streets. We have Main Street environment here, a South Road, and we really tried to reveal most of these public spaces to give it great neighborhood character rather than hiding them behind the buildings as might be more typical suburban format. So we think all of this comes together to create a great urban neighborhood with great texture on the street. If we go to the next slide, just a few very quick slides to kind of show what's going on in terms of that nuanced sort of townhome rhythm on the street. All the units have balconies, and that allows us to break the buildings into much more small scale vertical facades to get a much more sort of a vertical rhythm to the buildings. There's a lot of material contrast going on. So you get a much more sort of an upscale cosmopolitan effect by blending a lot of different ranges of colors. If we go to the next slide, you'll see a couple of other views here. This is one of these lobby pavilions that faces the mall main public plaza to come. So all of the building entrances are very much related to the mall. And you can see this public space leading back to the pool. This is our main amenity suite here. And the idea is to really celebrate the connection to the mall and really allow people who are going around the neighborhood to see into it and create a, a great nuanced effect. So with that, I think we'll turn it over to Mickey, and she'll be talking much more in detail about these buildings.
Thank you, Brandon. My name is Mickey Walker, and I'm the civil engineer for the project. Talking through a couple of the building details. Building A, as Brandon mentioned, is on the north side of this development. It has about 87 units. And similar to what the Aldermansville has stated, we are proposing a 1.5 parking space ratio per unit. So we have 27 tuck under parking spaces as garages within Building A, and we have 60 spaces covered in addition to street parking for any guests or anyone that's running into the building for any needs surrounding the site. For buildings B and C, for your orientation, north is to the right. Just wanted to zoom in on this view a little bit better. Both buildings have 92 units and 125 units respectively, with 44 tuck under parking spaces for a total of 217 covered spaces between the garage and the building. Additionally, we have interior surface lot spaces in it, as well as street parkings. All of these come together to create a different amenity areas for the project, kind of surrounding the project and also providing residential amenities with a pool space. Flipping through a couple of these amenities, we have the private road A, which is your main street coming off of Route 59, facing towards the mall. As you can see, we have wide sidewalks to create that urban appeal. And then we have separation between residential patios from the streetscape. On the opposite side of the road on the south side, we are proposing a linear park with that has different park pockets for different residential activities. There's a raised fitness deck, there's different seating opportunities, and it creates a great gathering space for residents. We additionally have a pocket park on the west side of the property. This is an enclosed area for grilling, gathering, some nice landscape trellis areas that allow for residents to gather. And here is the main residential amenity area of the pool space. Pool is obviously the highlight of this area, and we have some cabanas, some seating areas, as well as some seating areas in the far view, different grill spaces, that type of thing. And with that, we would like to remind you of the request to establish a special use plan development and to change the underlying zoning from the underlying zoning district to R5A, mid-rise multiple family dwelling district. Approval of the preliminary plan, and with this in conjunction with a final plat that's provided for informational purposes. Thank you for your time this evening, and we are available for any questions.
Questions from the alderman? Questions? Alderman Bug.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was very interested in the parking situation. You mentioned that there's 1.5 spaces per unit, 309 units. Has our traffic engineer, have they commented on the parking spaces in the street created? How much parking they're expecting will need on the street? I don't know if Mr. Green's on this call.
Mickey, do you want to take that or do you want me to?
It's up. I can start, I guess, and if you want to add anything. So the 1.5 parking spaces has been discussed with staff. We have reviewed with Mr. Green as well. It is consistent with the Station Boulevard parking ratios that we're providing 1 covered space per residential unit, as well as the half for any guest parking.
Tracy.
Okay, well, I mean, this is a little bit different because, of course, we don't want to be taking away from, I mean, we have this create a new street, there will possibly be people parking on there and walking to the actual mall area, depending on proximity and that. I would just like to hear more from Mr. Green at council on this. Of course, our neighbors to the east have a major problem with their parking in their business district in their downtown. And we don't want to create a street and then have similar problems. I understand it's studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. I'm thinking most of those units are going to have 2 vehicles.
The one thing that we didn't want to do is overpark this. We really wanted to be consistent with what Station Boulevard was doing. There is parking to the north and parking to the south in the parking lots for the Fox Valley Mall. So we did not want to necessarily overpark this. So that's why you see the 1.5. I'm not sure if we touched on it, but we also are looking to move the Pace Bus closer to this area. There is a stop on the south side of the mall, and we're looking to actually move it to kind of the north side, adjacent to the entrance between the former Carson's and this area. So, we are looking that, a lot of these are going to be millennials that are going to be kind of, in this area, and that they would be, going up to the, hopefully they would be going up to the train station for work and everything. So that's why you see the 1.5. I think that we have been looking at Station Boulevard, and it seems to be working very well with that ratio.
Tracy, if I may interject. My name is Rory Fansler with Kimley Horn. We did work with the development team on the parking supply. As Tracy noted, it's a function of a number of factors, including, increased mobility options, proximity to transit and Metra, rideshare, the increased usage of rideshare, particularly in the target demographic. So that's Uber and Lyft usage. E-commerce, as we're all familiar with now, you don't necessarily need to leave your home to function in society. And it also reflects the household size, as you noted earlier, in terms of the mix of studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. These households are predominantly 1 and 2 person households, many of which do not necessarily have 2 vehicles, and that's been confirmed based on a review of the US Census data for the immediate area surrounding the project site. So we also did survey Station Boulevard and Elon at Yorktown, 2 residential developments in the vicinity with that are of similar nature to what's being proposed here. And regardless of their parking supply for Station Boulevard, their actual occupancy of parking is roughly, 1 space per unit. And at Elon at Yorktown, their actual occupancy is about 1.15 spaces per unit. So we're confident that 1.5 spaces per unit will exceed demand in this case. And I think the other important thing to note, you mentioned the neighbor to the east. In this case, the parking supply is controlled through a lease agreement, which is unique. You can actually control through the lease agreement how many vehicles are on site. So again, my name is Rory Fansler with Kimley Horn, transportation planner. Happy to answer any additional questions regarding the proposed parking supply.
Alderman Masiacos.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question. If this project is approved, when would the developer plan? What's the calendar date for putting a shovel in the ground and starting this project?
We would start the demolition of the Sears at the beginning of 2021. We would turn over a development area to the Atlantic Focus Development Team in April of 2021, and their schedule would have the first building coming online in June of 2022, with the remaining buildings being completed through the remaining portion of 2022. So we would start basically at the beginning of 2021 and be done at the end of 2022.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
And Alderman Garza.
My question is it some percentage of rental property or there going to be some percentage of owned and occupied?
Oh, I'll answer that. This is Mitzi with Atlantic Residential. It's 100% rental.
100% rental?
Yes.
Correct. These are apartments.
Okay.
Additional questions from the alderman. Alderman Jenkins.
As was mentioned at our BZE meeting, and I'll bring it up again. I know we talked about square footage regarding the 2-bedroom units, but again, there are a number of empty nesters, grandparents who don't want to move to Florida. And I again want to reiterate that you need to look at the size of those, because a number of couples would like to have a unit that has large enough to bring grandkids, and they're going to be near the Fox Valley Mall, which is going to also now going to be more entertainment. So I again want to stress that they need to look at that, as well as is there any way to put into the agreement that after a certain period of time, especially once the economy begins to turn around, and this has been done in other projects throughout the city over the years, where it could eventually revert to owner occupied, because I think I heard from our BZE meeting, this is just one phase of this development. But when you look at everything else that's going to be developed around that, hopefully there's going to be some owner occupied, because if this is all rental, in 20 years, we're going to have a problem. So again, I want to reiterate that, number one, look at that empty nesters, the grandkids, and then also look at from the standpoint of owner occupied eventually as the market changes, but also we've got to take a close look at that we don't allow all of this with the additional flow of development going to the west outside of the mall there to be all rental. Owner occupied is a very key component to making sure that this remains a viable, most usable, most productive development that's going to be something proud, like the Fox Valley Mall has been since 1975 for Aurora.
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing. Question I have with regards to the covered parking. What's the particular design that you guys are looking at regarding that? Is that, because I've seen some developments that, the buildings look nice, but the covered parking is something that remains to be not to be desired. So what's your guys' thoughts with regards to the covered parking area?
First question is, recognizing that this is just less than a quarter of the mall proper, that whole circle. In the future, will there be residences available for purchase? Not at this particular development in this site, but throughout the whole circle of the mall, will there at some point be residences available for purchase?
Yeah,
Mayor, thank you. And you can go, Tracy. Thank you.
I was going to say, our hope that there would be some owner occupied. This is just the first phase of the entire redevelopment of the mall. The comp plan does suggest that there be owner occupied. There be some senior housing within this area, as well as some apartments. So again, this is just the first phase of this, but I'll turn it over to John too. He can answer that a little bit better too.
Well, I think you explained it, and there's a lot more to come here. There's a lot of land at the campus. It needs continual revitalization, and this is, as Tracy stated, the first phase. It is set up, though, to be an extremely attractive top of the market rental product that the market is asking for, and we think we're meeting market demand, and we expect to be meeting market demand, and we are continuing to evaluate the master plan options on the remainder of the campus. So there definitely is an opportunity for owner-occupied units, different product types, and different development types, with retail being the continued focus. of what's going on at the Fox Valley Mall. But there is more change that we're planning for, that we're getting ready for. And as Tracy stated, this is just the phase one project that we're talking about tonight.
Next question that Alderman Jenkins asked, and I know you guys have worked hard on making sure that that parking had fit into, the beautiful development that you're working on there and that you designed. Talk a little bit about the parking, how you made it fit in with the whole development.
I could answer that one.
All right.
I also wanted to mention that we do have several large units in the mix on the outside corners, and actually the shape of the buildings were designed to create a lot of outside corners. So we have a lot of grand 1,350 square foot, I believe, 2-bedroom den units. We've really gone out of our way to create lots of outside corners, a lot of grand units with great corners and frontage. On the covered parking, we've picked up the same building palette, the same masonry palette that we're using for the covered structure. Relatively low slung. We've used the masonry to create at least a three foot sort of privacy or crash wall around the entire covered parking area. This will be presented in later meetings and try to get it to blend seamlessly. Lots of landscaping as well. On screening on top of that. So we think that we've tucked in the covered parking pretty well into the blocks.
Thank you.
Alderman Lofty.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is in my ward. We're thrilled to have this, and I don't think Aurora's had any new beautiful residential buildings built in a long time that I can think of. So I think this is a big asset, and I think if they want to do rentals, let them do rentals. And I think there's plenty of parking. I'm out there all the time. There's so much parking. There's so many huge parking lots there that aren't ever going to be used. I think we're fine on parking. It looks great. I have a question for Ms. Walker, the civil engineer. I assume there's no requirement for detention because it is all just asphalt right now?
That's correct. We've worked with the engineering staff to make sure that we're providing any necessary detention. In this case, it is not required because it is existing totally impervious area. And we are working to provide BMPs, making sure things are draining through green spaces, those types of things.
I don't know if, Brandon, you could look at doing solar panels on the carports. A lot of places in warm climates do that in Arizona, Florida. I don't know if it would warrant it, but just something to think about. It would make it a little more sightly.
Yeah, this is Mitzi with Atlantic Residential. We are looking into that package to help with our property as well as power for the commercial spaces as well. So we're working with Centennial on that.
Looks great.
Any other question, Alderman Jenkins?
I mentioned also at BZ&E, hopefully you guys have had an opportunity, or will have an opportunity to talk to our IT online organization folks with regards to fiber for the area, since you are developing such a large residential area. And I think fiber would be an additional selling point for your development. So hopefully that is in the works.
Yes, we usually, again, this is Mitzi. We usually reach out to all the local carriers in the area, and if there's fiber available, we negotiate with them to run fiber into the property.
Well, as I mentioned at our BZ&E, we have over 200 miles of fiber throughout the city, so our online folks can be able to work and be able to help.
Alderman, and the staff followed up with me directly after the meeting. Tracy coordinated that, so we did get the follow-up, and we appreciate the assistance, and we'll make sure that we put the necessary infrastructure in place. And thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Alderman, for helping us with that.
Great.
Consent.
Consent. Let's do it.
Consent.
This item will go on consent with no objection. All right.
Okay.
All right. So Alderman Seville?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you want me to go on to the next one?
Sure.
Okay. The next one is 20-0605, an ordinance establishing a special use plan development at 311 South Evans Lawn Avenue to be incorporated under the existing 2018 Aurora University plan description. This is part of the Aurora University master plan. They're looking to purchase and add a third home on the west side of Evans Lawn to their master plan. Their use would be for office for this building, and it's in keeping with the current master plan the city council has approved. And I believe Mr. Goldsmith is here, as well as staff, to present and answer any questions that you might have.
Questions from the Alderman?
Consent.
No objections. Item go on consent.
Okay, and 20-0651, an ordinance granting a special use permit for social service agencies, charitable organizations, and health-related facilities and similar uses when not operated for pecuniary profit use on the property located at 545, 551, and 557 South 4th Street. Aurora Christian Healthcare Organization is looking to do some provide healthcare in the building here in the church. So I believe they're here, as well as staff, to answer any questions that you might have.
Question from the Alderman on this item?
Consent.
Consent.
No objection. This item will go on consent.
Okay, and Mayor, thank you. That's the report from the BC&E committee.
Thank you, sir. Chairman O'Connor, can you give the Finance Committee report, please?
Yes, sir. The first item is 20-0529, a resolution authorizing the amendment of the contract with Microsoft awarded in 2018 through the State of Illinois Central Management Services, awarded to CDW Inc. to allow for purchase of Microsoft Enterprise M365 security and mobility licenses through Dell in the amount of $20,511.84. My understanding is that the Dell is now, through the state of Illinois, is the source for this in place of CDW. And it's actually being obtained at a lesser price than we would have continued with CDW.
Consent.
Consent.
Mm-hmm. The next item is 20-0708, a resolution authorizing the appropriation and expenditure of motor fuel tax funds for something called snow removal operations in 2021
Consent.
in an amount up to $1,320,000. So
Consent.
No objection. This item will go on consent.
Mr. Widener in the street department will have a stroke if we don't appropriate this. So, but next item is 20-0723, resolution renewing all fees pertaining to Chapter 46 of the City of Aurora Code of Ordinances entitled Towing Services. The recommendation is that after the change a few years ago in the fees, that they are adequate at this point, that will be reviewed again in 2 years.
Consent.
Next item is 20-0724, resolution to authorize agreement with CY LLC DBA 180 Engineering, Gov Temps USA LLC, Stivers Services LLC, and Nexus Employment Solution Plus to provide staffing for temporary and contracted positions. The recommendation is for all 4 of these companies to be included. They're all a little bit different in what they would offer in regard to these positions. We will go to one of the ones or the others that is the most appropriate for the position needed and for the price.
Consent.
Hold on, Alderman Yamas.
Yeah, can I have this going unfinished, please?
Unfinished.
Thank you.
All right. The last item is 20-0742, resolution allowing the Director of Purchasing to approve change order 1 for $100,000 to the contract of $802,630 with Geneva Construction Company for the 2020 citywide pavement patching for water and sewer maintenance. There was additional restoration needed done to a number of the projects so that it increased the price overall of what we had to do.
Consent.
Item will go on consent.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, kind sir. Chairman Hart Burns, can you read the PHST, Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Health and Safety and Transportation met on November 10th. And these are the items we have for review. We have item number 20-0733, it's a resolution authorizing annual action plan, substantial amendment for 2020, number 3, to modify project for the CDBG for 2020-10. A 605 district to convert the activity from an economic development activity to a public service activity focusing on the youth education and response to the coronavirus pandemic. Chris is on.
Yes, I am here. You can hear me?
Yes.
So just quickly, this item was approved by City Council on October 27th. So what we're asking for tonight is to just tidy up our federal requirements to modify our 2020 action plan. So we'll be working with Simon Rodriguez, our Youth Services Coordinator, to finish up the application and look to create an application to register as many students as we can. And we're looking for around, I believe, 650. So once this is approved next week with your approval, we'll be working to put the application together and probably get started a little bit after Christmas break, maybe around the first of the year. And we're also working with Michael Peggis from IT as well as a coordinator. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Consent.
Consent.
Question.
Okay.
Alderman Jenkins.
How much was that again? The amount?
The amount will be for $100,000.
Okay, thank you. Consent.
Bob O'Connor had a question.
No, that was the same question. Mr. Jenkins got to me first, so got to it first.
Diane could go on consent. Then we have item
Alderman at
2007.
large. We cover it all.
36.
We're on it.
All right.
I'm gonna need you guys to talk while Alderman Shahar Burns is talking. Alderman Jenkins, go ahead, Alderman.
A resolution established a maximum number of Class A package sales for liquor license unofficially related to the application for Prisco Fine Foods at 1108 Prairie Street. Jennifer?
Consent.
Hold on, Alderman Yamas.
Yeah, I have a question about this. This is just simple conversion, right? From the beer and wine to the full liquor. I thought that all of our licenses were going to automatically convert. Just wondering why this one's separate from the rest of the licenses in the city.
Ms. Stallings.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman, the licenses are converting. However, Prisco's has put in a special request to have their license modified from just beer and wine because it's a package sales license. They've asked to have it converted to a full liquor license at this time.
Was that one of the changes that was going to occur automatically happen? I know we're in the process of doing it, but back, when we changed the ordinance, or is this separate from?
Ms. Voigt?
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Yamas, the question you're asking, the conversion would be automatic for on-site consumption, not package sales. So that's the difference here. Prisco,
okay.
Yep.
Thank
you. So this requires going through the council. This requires council approval.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. That can go on consent.
Consent.
Consent. And that concludes public health and safety. Transportation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Chairman Garza, can you give the INT Infrastructure and Technology Committee report, please?
Yes, we get together on November 9, 2020, and the first item in the agenda is 20-0563 is a resolution to award a contract to HR Green Inc. of the amount of $39,750 to review the regulatory floodplain map for the area surrounding Mastodon Lake.
Consent.
Consent.
Next item 20-0564 is a resolution to award a contract with the HR Green Inc. to the amount $176,350 for final engineering and construction observation to the Mastodon Lake Bedgin and Shoreline Restoration Project.
Consent.
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 Okay. Next item 20-0600 is a resolution approval Italian Midwest LLC Eco Clean Maintenance Inc., International Cleaning Services Inc., Smith Maintenance Company, and Total Facilities Maintenance Inc. for the lowest responsibly bidder for contracted janitorial services at various City of Aurora facilities effective January 1st, 2021, in an amount not to exceed $1,114 and $161.59.
Consent.
Is that consent?
Yeah.
So now, okay. All right. Next item 200663, a resolution to approve Petroleum Traders Inc. of the Blue Petroleum LLC as the vendors for the purchase of unleaded and diesel motor fuel for the city of Aurora, fleet and pickup generators for an additional 1 year in amount not to exceed $1,153,500. Consent?
Consent.
200671, a resolution accepting the underground public improvements in maintenance security for Battlefield Phase 2, Unit 4B, Lot 401, 2350, Trader Lane.
Consent.
Okay. 20-0681, a resolution authorizing the lease city-owned property with Mary Wilkinson Food Pantry, Inc. for the continuation of their community garden.
Consent.
That's all we have, Mayor.
Hold on one second. Last item, Alderman Seville.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to say that, as I mentioned in the Alderman's Corner last month, that we're just very excited about the expansion of the community garden, and really happy that things are going so well that they want to expand, offering and growing food for the community. So I think they should be really commended for their vision and their goals that they're carrying forth. So thank you.
Okay, and with no objection to that item, can we consent?
Okay, that's all we have, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Chairman Franco, can you give the RAP Rules Administration and Procedure Committee report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Rules Administration Procedure Committee met on November 3rd and reviewed the following items. First one being 20-0710, an ordinance creating a civilian review board to review matters involving the police department. And I do believe is Mr. Mohammed going to give a little presentation on that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Alderman. Good evening, City Council. Good evening, Mayor. Tonight, we come before you with the establishment of the Civilian Review Board, the ordinance, the step prior to final approval, hopefully next week. Just to give some context to it, as I shared with RAP and other committees, PHST, as well as we went through the initial process, we began the Change Reform Initiative, as you know, 5 months ago. And I don't even know if we look back 5 months ago, if we knew where this would take us. What we did know is that we did it with the best of intentions. And because we did it with the best of intentions, really believe that that's going to yield the best of results. And so we see the foundation of the 4 pieces of change that we rolled out. And then there have been so many other changes to go along with the theme, but so many other additions that we haven't even rolled out yet, including benchmarking for municipalities in the area and other organizations throughout the state from Aurora's Change Initiative. But when you look at what happened to our city, May 31st into the morning hours of June 1st, and then 8 days later when Mayor Irvin wrote out the Change Initiative, it allowed us that week window to talk to the community, that week-long window to see the mass protests, and just as importantly, talk to the leaders of the mass protests, the leaders of the demonstrations after that, getting a true pulse of the community in response to the topic of police reform in the context of Aurora. And we then rolled out the Change Initiative. And one of the key parts of the Change Initiative was the Civilian Review Board. At that time was to look at the establishment of the Civilian Review Board. As we shared with RAP 2 weeks ago, which was on election night, very apropos that it was on election night being the night where the voices of the people should be reflected and heard best. And I think that's what you see with the Change Initiative. And so what you have before you is this 17-page document of a Civilian Review Board that comes after months of research, benchmarking best practices of other CRBs throughout the country and here in the state of Illinois, but really prescribing it for Aurora particularly, right here for our city, which is very unique. And so we use the voices of the community, we use the best practices of CRBs throughout the country, and we listen to the pulse of that. Thank you to our internal team for pulling it together, led by John Murphy, who's here tonight from a legal perspective. Thank you to Alderman Llamas and Alderman Jenkins for your voices in this process. They were very, very integral. And thank you to retired Judge Kim Bright, that we reference all the time in this process, but she has brought so much value to the table in terms of this concept and this Civilian Review Board. And so I'll turn it over to our Chief Management Officer, Alex Alexandru, who will give you the overview based on what's in that 17-page packet as we hope to move forward in this next and final stage of the establishment of a Civilian Review Board, the first of its kind here in Aurora and in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Let me share the screen. Okay, so again, good evening. We are discussing Legistar File 200710, the actual ordinance creating a Civilian Review Board to review matters involving the Aurora Police Department. So from a general overview perspective, the draft ordinance is proposing creation of a 9-member CRB. It would be within Chapter 2 of the City Code. The various tasks and highlights of their responsibilities are as follows. They would review, evaluate, and make recommendations concerning APD activities and efforts related to officer recruitment and training, the overall relationship with the public, outside perspective to the evaluation of civilian complaints. Review and evaluate the administration and consistency of discipline with respect to civilian complaints. Make a recommendation to the chief as to the proposed discipline prior to imposition, and provide a systematic means to achieve continuous improvement in the interactions between the public and APD. Here, and I think you also have this as a separate attachment in Legistar, but this is an infographic that basically lays out both the current disciplinary process that exists at APD, as well as the improvements, enhancements brought about in this new process through the CRB ordinance. So as you can see at the beginning of at step 1, a complaint is filed. What delineates current from new is the darkened check circle. So currently a complaint is filed with APD and it goes to the Office of Professional Standards. Under the new ordinance, complaints can also be filed with the Civilian Review Board. It would then move on to step 2. Those existing investigatory processes remain the same. A thorough investigation is completed by OPS, including looking at all facts of the case, performing interviews, and reviewing evidence. OPS is a fact-finding body and does not issue recommendations for discipline. That occurs later in the process. The next step also existing is commander review. So the bureau commander reviews the full investigation by the OPS group and recommends discipline. That recommendation then goes to step 4, which is our existing employee review board. The employee review board, made up of Aurora police officers from all ranks, reviews the entire case and the commander's recommendation. Newly added to this process is, under the new ordinance, the ERB's recommendation will be forwarded to the CRB. So step 5 is accounts for the entire CRB role, which we described in the earlier bullet, and that is, under the new ordinance, the CRB, made up of 9 community members, will review the facts and evidence of the case, along with the recommendations by the commander and the ERB. The CRB will then deliberate and then forward their final recommendation to the chief of police. Step 6 exists, and it exists because of both state law and the collective bargaining agreement, and that is that the accused officer has a right to a pre-disciplinary hearing. So he or she is offered that opportunity to a pre-D hearing where they may present a written or oral response to the chief of police after being informed of the supporting materials of the investigation. Finally, step 7, the chief imposes discipline. The chief reviews recommendation by the ERB, and under the new ordinance, the recommendation by the Civilian Review Board, along with all facts of the case, to make a final determination of discipline. And just so everyone understands, Under the collective bargaining agreement, the chief of police has the sole authority to discipline officers up to and including suspension. Under recommendation by the chief, the human resources director has the sole authority to terminate officers from employment. The board will be subject to the following, what we refer to as UPOTA, the Uniform Peace Officers Disciplinary Act, the City of Aurora Ethics Ordinance, Chapter 15, and finally the Open Meetings Act, or OMA, in state law. We talked earlier about membership, and we'll add about staffing the CRB. Members of the 9-member board will be required to complete a specific training/orientation program prior to becoming a voting board member. A city employee will be appointed, non-voting, to serve as secretary of the board. And finally, the chief of police and corporation counsel will designate staff to support the board as needed. A little bit about board duties. The board, in addition to reviewing officer discipline, will provide information to the community. The board will have a website of its own that details the complaint process, public education, any other information requested by or deemed relevant to the community. I kind of blew through that. Also in the Legistar item, you do have the specific proposed legislation, as well as the memo that was provided to PHST.
Questions from the Alderman? Questions? I have Alderman Jenkins.
Yes, Mr. Alejandro, could you explain a little bit I think it's just best to understand one of the requirements that the Civilian Review Board, I'm trying to recall the name of, it's one of the requirements that you said that the people on the board would have to adhere to.
Let me pull it up. There's UPOTA.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Actually, we've got Mr. Murphy on, subject matter expert. Mr. Murphy, would you care to fill us in on that?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Again, thank you for allowing me to participate in this terrific project. Alderman Jenkins, there's the Uniform Peace Officers Disciplinary Act, also called UPOTA, has a requirement that complaints filed against police officer, either by a supervising police officer or somebody from the outside, a civilian, has to be supported by an affidavit. So when a complaint comes in, we're going to work through that. So at some point in the process, the person filing a specific complaint against an officer will sign off on an affidavit. So not a difficult requirement, and it's something that we'll be able to handle as a matter of course.
So that affidavit says what to the complainant? That they have
It's an affidavit. It's an affidavit from the complainant,
okay,
saying that to the best of complainant's knowledge, the matters that are the subject matter that they're complaining about are true.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mayor.
Any other questions, Alderman Lofty?
Yeah, so I think it's a good draft. I just was going to add that I'd like to see that the training include the Citizens Police Academy. I think that someone require that.
Yeah, so let me elaborate, and I think we've got the police represented as well, but we took special emphasis on the training requirements, and the first requirement that was recommended was the subject matter that the Citizens Police Academy undertake. And so that has proven over the years to provide a tremendous foundational knowledge and education for folks about the police department, what they do, the different requirements, on all sides of the police department in Aurora. So Chief, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, but we also wanted to make this similar to continuing education as well. But we want to also give that option to the CRB once they're formed, but we wanted to encourage continual education. So I think, Chief or Paris, we also planned on some other elements of training and education for the CRB.
Yeah, absolutely, Alderman Lofshay. That was a great suggestion and exactly was one of our suggestions from the police department side as well, because we wanted to make sure that those who are looking at cases and overseeing that of a police officer's actions understand the educational foundation of being a police officer. And so part of that suggestion was that we put them through the Citizen Police Academy. So the only caveat I would say to that is that it is 10 weeks, I think, I could give or take. And so that could prolong the training. So before we could get the CRB up and running, we talked about maybe doing just an abbreviated version of that in our training. So that would comprise our OPS process. So we're in the process of putting together a training exercise, most of which will come from the material that we have for the Citizens Police Academy as well.
Yeah, if I could elaborate, Alderman, this is Deputy Chief Cross. I am actually in the process of putting together a training program. I need to meet with training and some other people just to get some other ideas, but it's going to be, like the chief said, kind of an abridged version of Citizens Police Academy, because I think there's some things that are taught in that we can probably pull out, put a little bit more pertinent information in there, as opposed to our, that has to do with our disciplinary process. So it's going to be similar to the Citizens Police Academy, but different, if that makes sense.
And if Mr. Mayor, if I could just add, again, I failed to mention this, but from the onset of the change initiative and the tremendous feedback that we got externally and internally, I certainly want to thank the aldermen who participated, our internal staff, Judge Kim Bright. They were terrific in really taking this so seriously, knowing that the council passed a resolution to establish this and putting this heavy responsibility on us to deliver. And the fact is, and I think I mentioned this in the past, that we wanted to give this all the gravitas of every other critical board and commission that we have and empower it to do its job. And we think that we have done that. And not only are we focusing on, attracting the best and most dedicated folks to be inaugural members of the board, but we also are looking to sustain this, keep evaluating and improving, and giving them all the tools they need to fulfill their important responsibilities. So we appreciate, as a staff and I think as a community, from the input we've gotten, the mayor and city council's consistent support for this. I have to say, in my close to 30 years of being in local government, I think this is really one of the most significant achievement that we've pulled together in a very short time, because we didn't want to drag this out and we wanted to establish an outstanding template here. So we took the best from what we found in our research, but we've also customized it and made it unique to Aurora at the same time. So we're very excited about this opportunity, and we're very thankful for all of your support, as well as the community's input and support. So thank you.
Any additional questions from the alderman? It looked like Alderman Hartburn.
Consent.
All right, we got consent with no objection. This item will go on consent.
Okay, thank you. And then the last item for the RAP committee is 20-0758. Recommendation to approve an aldermanic aid to the alderman. I want to report that earlier today, the RAP committee unanimously approved Kathleen McCabe to become our next Aldermanic aide. Kathleen's resume is in Legistar, but just so you know, she is currently the confidential secretary for the Office of Professional Standards for APD. Kathleen will be starting training on November 30th. Also, an update, Sandy Strieber's last day is also November 30th. As we know that the hiring for the Chief of Staff permanent position has been put on hold for the hiring freeze. So Sandy was willing to basically come back part-time, and she'll be working about 16 hours a week, Tuesdays and then Thursday and Friday mornings to help out. And at that time, Shelley Windett will be the acting Chief of Staff, and she'll be the interim Chief of Staff until a permanent one is in place. And then finally, I want to say thank you to Sandy, not only for her years of service, but her contributions during this process for both the Aldermanic aide and Chief of Staff were immeasurable. And so thank you for the years you put in, but also thank you currently for helping us get through this, because it was a lot in our plate in a short period of time, and you were instrumental in guiding us through that. So thank you very much for that. And does anybody have any questions for me about the hiring and the dates and the start and stop times with the various positions? Hearing none, Mr. Mayor, that's all that committee has.
All right, consent on that one, with no objection. Thank you very much. That concludes the committee reports. Let's go on. You know, we're going to go a little bit out of order today. Let's go with the staff report first, if you don't mind, Alderman Hardburn. You
Go ahead on.
For the Hexagon project. Who's going to be giving that report? Is that going to be Mr. Piggies?
Right, no. It's actually going to be Commander Dorsap and Deputy Chief McCabe, and also the Deputy CIO, Jeff Anderson. I'm just here to guide the presentation.
Support, that's what I'm talking about.
Commander Dorsap, let me pull up the presentation, sir. Then we can go from there. Mayor, City Council, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
All right, Commander Dorsap, whenever you're ready.
Well, good evening. I'm Mike Dorzap, the Support Services Commander here with the Aurora Police Department. Along with Chief McCabe, our city IT professionals, and the rest of the very large Hexagon and Crow project team, I'd like to thank the mayor and the aldermen for allowing us to provide this executive update presentation for the overarching Hexagon Public Safety Systems modernization, which encompasses our CAD, RMS, and MPS systems. I'll be using those acronyms throughout. So just for clarification, CAD stands for Computer Aided 911 Dispatching. RMS stands for our Records Management Systems. And MPS is a mobile police system, which is just a fancy way of saying the computers that are in the officer squad cars and the fire department's fire apparatus equipment. Just for a quick history before I get into these numbers behind the project, before we moved to it was around 2013, the department began its early stages of researching the numerous computer-aided dispatching and records management systems available to 911 centers and law enforcement agencies. Former Chief Thomas had projected well in advance the emerging needs for replacing APD's extremely outdated systems, which were about a quarter century old. The fire department was in a very similar situation as well. And as such, he'd been setting aside cumulative 911 funds for years for this very purpose. It was well understood from the onset, the undertaking of simultaneous replacing the CAD, RMS, Fire RMS, and MPS was going to be nothing short of a Herculean task, likely to take years to complete. And so the slide that Mike has up right now is just a simple and a quick way to illustrate the impact these systems have on our emergency services provided by the police department and fire department. We're talking about systems that are used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. They are the lifeblood of our organizations. Our CAD system alone processes close to 400,000 calls for service a year. Our records management system is used to house millions of records and hundreds of thousands of incident reports, accident reports, bookings, and arrest reports. DC McCabe, I don't know if you had any FD statistics you wanted to go over on this.
I can just tell you that in 2019, the fire department ran almost 20,000 emergency calls, which included 16,300 ambulance reports. And this system helps us tie all those records together for a seamless data transfer between them.
Okay, next slide, please. So this enormous project's not so simple goal was to procure and implement a modern and integrated public safety information system, a system that would facilitate the police and fire department's ability to provide a modern, highly responsive level of service to our citizenry. As mentioned above, there were numerous antiquated legacy systems that were targeted for replacement. The CAD system alone had been in operation since 1992. The fire department's records management system, DC McCabe can touch on a little bit. And then our records management system our legacy records management system was in use since about between 1993 and 94. Also note that's not on the slide, as I mentioned before, was the mobile for public service system that needed to be replaced as well, which again is those laptops and the officer squad cars. And DC McCabe, I don't know if you want to touch on how old and antiquated the fireside house or the fireside RMS side of it was.
Yeah, so the fire records were part of the problem. Was not only with the systems old, but they were all disjointed. Nothing talked to each other, which meant repetitive data entry from 911 call data to ambulance calls to scheduling. The same information had to be entered over and over and over again in different places. Part of the bidding when they went out for the new system included the fire records management system. At the time, 5 different programs were evaluated, and it was chosen by the committee that Firehouse would be the program that would be used. One of the bright things and the great things about the Firehouse system is that a lot of the information from CAD automatically transfers over. So information such as incident addresses, times, type of call, all that stuff automatically comes over from CAD, which saves time, report writing for both fire crews and ambulance crews, and helps vehicles get turned around and back in service faster to handle the next call.
If you go to the next slide, please. So this slide is just a simple timeline. You can see it started way back in February of 16 when the contracts were executed, and then we had a kickoff meeting in April of 2016. I would like to point out, if you look at the June 1st, 2017, it kind of derailed the project for a little bit, and that's because we had a decision point to make mid-project implementation where the web-based records management system had been substantially more developed by Hexagon than when the years before selection and RFP process went out. And we knew we were going to have the system for quite a long time. So we looked at the on-premise solution that we had currently under contract with Hexagon, looked at the benefits of the web-based records management system. And that analysis to look at the delta between the two took quite a while. So that actually kicked us back a little bit longer on the final go live date, which was a little bit longer than we had anticipated. And I know that this is a closeout presentation. At the end, we have the go live, but in reality, this type of a project's really never over. The RMS and CAD are a perpetual, never-ending project with software enhancements, customization, upgrades, and maintenance. It's quite an impressive system that takes a lot to manage and customize and figure out their business processes. So it's always really actually going to be an ongoing project in that regard. Next slide, please. So public benefits. I'll just touch on one. I'd like to talk about the department's ability to be more efficient and timely in our dispatching of our police and fire services, excuse me, with the new CAD. With our current CAD, our telecom personnel now have the ability to dispatch our police personnel and the fire apparatus based on the geography and response plans that are built into the system. Simply put, telecom personnel can see real time where our officers are at any point in time, in addition where all the fire apparatus are being housed, and can dispatch accordingly to the system, prompting the closest available units and fire equipment using the GPS and combining that with the nature of the call and the response plans that are built in. The old system had no GPS or line of sight to the officers in the field. And they only knew where each of our officers were based on those officers giving their location. The GPS dispatching provides a much quicker dispatch time thus quicker arrival times. DC McCabe, did you want to touch on some of the public benefits that the firehouse gives?
Like I said, the biggest thing about the firehouse and Hexagon being able to talk to each other is when our ambulances transport somebody to a hospital, they cannot leave the hospital until a care report for that patient has been completed and left with the hospital staff. So the old program that used to mean getting to the hospital, they would have to call the 911 center, get all their times and incident number, and then begin the report. Whereas now all that information is seamlessly transitioned over to equipment both in the ambulance and at the hospital. And often the crews can have the report almost completed before they even get to the hospital, which allows them to be available much quicker for that next emergency call.
Next slide, please.
Good evening, Alderman and Mayor. Jeff Anderson, Deputy CIO. Won't read this whole slide here. Just want to start out with a little bit of IT humor here in the fact that this system actually knows the internet exists. So what that means is the open architecture that comes with it. We can provide better access to digital records in squad cars. We can pull in data for accident reports that used to be hand keyed in. We can, like I think has been mentioned already, the ability to dispatch closest police and fire units. We have more access from within this tool to modern business intelligence tools like Power BI, et cetera. And some of those you've seen us display on COVID dashboards where we are pulling data from various different sources. We actually use some of that data to feed back into the CAD and RMS systems to help decision-making processes there. Just the wide open architecture that we have, the wider open architecture we have helps a lot. You know, it's now a much more high availability and failover safe system than what we previously had. Previous system had little or no redundancy. And it does support the multi-agency configuration that we have in place with North Aurora and more flexible workflows we couldn't facilitate previously. Next slide.
Project stakeholders. So as you can see in this slide, there were many, and this adds to the layers of complexity in an implementation like this. We conducted numerous iteration meetings, we call them, with each of these stakeholder groups in order to fully understand what their current business processes were and to hopefully enhance those future state business processes with the system. In addition to those meetings, we met with these same stakeholders while we gradually then customized the records management system to their specific business needs currently and hopefully future state business needs as we moved along. To this day and beyond, I had mentioned this will be a recurring ongoing process with constant system upgrades, new emerging business processes, and evolving technologies to be integrated into our current systems that we have. Go to the next slide, please.
And because of the open technologies we have and the ongoing process Commander has talked about, it is a constant circular workflow here of constant process improvement we can put in place here now. So you'll see, and we have already tighter integration with our GIS mapping systems, for example, more data inflows and outflows to help decision-making both within the PD and taking data from outside the PD to help feed them as well. And DC, I think the second half was yours.
Yes, so one of the things about technology is it's never over. As Commander Dorzaf said, will never be a completed project. There's always improvements coming out. And like a lot of other industries, there is constant purchasing and selling of companies and acquisition companies. For years, our paramedics have been using ESO software for the patient care reports. The company ESO happened to buy Firehouse after the city of Aurora had begun this process, is actually ready in the process of, by the end of 2021, phasing out Firehouse and bringing all those modules under one roof, under the ESO roof, which means it'll be similar software to what we're using now, but it'll be a much more technology advanced, a whole lot of data things that we're not even recognizing now that we'll be able to do in the future.
And so another advantage that this provides us, which fits into the IT technology roadmap that's published, is it allows the IT department to evolve and make more efficient the service model that we have. Instead of having technologies that were specific only to a handful of programs within police or fire, they're now more standardized technologies that can be understood by a wider breadth of folks within IT to provide that wider service across the entire city. So we're talking about standard, Microsoft-based component products, right? Not one-off written solutions. So this allows us then to spread that knowledge base around and look at potentials for updating our service desk hours and shifts to support not only the new tech and technology, but the existing staffing models throughout the city. Next slide.
And that's it. I mean, let's just wrap up if there's any questions from the mayor and or city council.
Questions from city council? You do me a favor and close out of that so I can see everybody. Questions from city council members? Questions from city council?
I have a question.
Alderman Lofty.
So it shows here that I think this is great. I'm all with you, but it shows a budget of 7.7 million. Is that what we spent? Where are we at on that? And where's that money coming from?
Actually, I can just give a introduction to that piece, and then Marty, feel free to jump in. Actually, the total budget for the entire project was $7 million. We did come in under that. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, Marty. I'm not sure if you do as well, but there was some savings for the entire life cycle of the project. Marty, we provided those numbers. We still needed to go back through and just kind of rehash that out, but there was savings once we looked at the overall project budget of that $7 million. I'm not sure, Alderman Lofty, if that actually answered your question, but I just don't have those numbers off the top of my head right now.
I want to know if we're going to spend, is it already spent, or do we still have millions more to spend on this? That's sort of what I'm trying to figure out. Where are we at?
Marty, if I'm not mistaken, the only thing was the maintenance that was outstanding, and there was one additional thing for NIBRs that we needed to connect to the state.
Yes, Alderman, it's the first time I've seen the report, so I can't comment on anything. I would say we should add the financials as a slide to the report on a budget to actual. But I agree with Mr. Pegas that that we should be under budget on the project life to date, and we can add that as a follow-up, even as just a communication to council over the duration of the project.
Okay.
And we do have those details. So, Mark, I just wanted to make sure that you actually reviewed those first before they were distributed out. So.
Mr. Alexandru.
Mr. Mayor, just again, having been involved in the project throughout, especially at the beginning, and I think help answer Alderman Lofty's question, the project was budgeted over a number of years, approved by City Council, went through the Finance Committee, went through all the steps. This was probably one of the most vetted projects I've ever been involved with because of the complexity and the depth and all the systems that it was updating. And again, I think you heard Commander Dorzaf say some of these systems dated back to 1992. And as the second largest city, there was a determination made, the case stated, and the City Council and the mayor at the time approved it. And my understanding is, to be confirmed by Marty and Mike, but we budgeted and everything's been paid for with the exception of the annual maintenance that's required. And it did come in fact under budget, but it was bid out. There was extensive, I think I kept them. There were stacks of requirements in the RFP, RFQ. I mean, there were a lot of moving parts to this, but at the end of the day, we have a state-of-the-art system that impacts our daily operations, as Commander Dorzaf and Deputy Chief McCabe highlighted. And so that was after years of patching together the existing systems that we had. But as far as I know, there are no outstanding debts on this project going forward other than the contractual maintenance.
Additional questions from the Alderman? Alderman O'Connor.
I don't have a question. I have a statement of compliment, appreciation, and thankfulness to all of the departments, people, agencies, everybody that's been involved in this. I know this, as pointed out by the chart, has been around for 5 years. I think each one of us has heard the word hexagon for so many times that we wondered whether it was one of those typical government operations that was going to be a hex. But I think it has turned out, obviously, in this presentation to show you the tremendous scope and complexity of what we are trying to do in bringing all of this together. So I want to say thank you very much again to everybody involved, mayor's office, all the way through the departments, fire, IT, police, everybody that was involved in this, in getting this not a hex, but a great asset and compliment to the city at this point.
Alderman Seville.
Yes, I was just wondering, now that we've completed this very huge endeavor, and my compliments to city staff and the like, this was a huge undertaking, and I think you've done a very superb job. Is there any idea about integrating other divisions and departments within the system as well in a future phase?
Well, I actually can comment on that, as Mr. Anderson had mentioned, in terms of the integration with data, right? Being able to take that data and, for example, with development services, I mean, if there's a call for service, right? And if there's a particular, I'm trying to make an example here. If there's some information from the development services that would prove beneficial to our officers or fire before they're going out, that relates to like buildings and permits, property standards or code, we want to integrate that data so it's available to the officers to help them in the decision-making process, you know, before they arrive on site. So that is an area that we're talking with our data and analytics, and also Mr. Anderson and with the fire and police are working on, in terms of being able to access data across the city to enhance our decision-making process. So short answer, Alderman Seville, yes, absolutely, right? And it's a continuous service improvement effort that, as Commander mentioned, that will go on and continue as we improve the services to our citizens.
Yeah, that was the understanding that I had when we first began these discussions, those meetings we had in the Alderman's office in 2016, that there would be a future integration with the very divisions and departments that you mentioned to help the emergency services better respond and as to what's going on a particular property, instead of going in there blind and the like. So I hope to see that sometime as well.
Deputy McCabe.
Yeah, Alderman Seville, I can tell you that I know when the project was first looked at, the old product that Commander Dorzat was talking about from 1992 was at its end of life. The company was no longer going to support it. It was an old DOS-based, you know, flashing cursor at the bottom of the screen program. That's how old it was. And so the program had to be replaced. I know when they first started looking at it, the intent was for it to be a citywide system. However, they were still recovering from the 2010 economy, and the cost to incorporate all the departments at one time was just prohibitive. It just couldn't be done. And so they was scaled back to start with police and fire, and then as funds and technology allowed us to bring other departments on board.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from the Alderman or comments?
Only other comment, Mr. Mayor, I would like to add, we do have our strategic partner, some Crow, on the line, and I just want to thank Susanna Heichinger for all her commitment and involvement and her expertise in working with this. And I believe Mr. Bob Dobis is on the line as well. I just wanted to thank them as well. And I believe Commander Dorzat and Chief McCabe and also Jeff Anderson would agree with that statement.
All right, well, thank all the team and, you know, and the staff for everything you've done working on the Hexagon project and get up to the point where it's at now. And I want to thank you in advance for all the work you're going to do to continue to prove it into the future. So thanks for the presentation. Let's go on to Alderman Hart Burns for the Alderman quorum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to give my report from the 7th Ward. Just wanted to mention things that are happening in the year of 2020, and I'm going to go back to 2019 just in case for some things, and the vision for Ward 7. I would like to mention that I'm happy to say that the city has purchased property between New York and Liberty to put in other city services, but the South Dome is going over there first. I'm excited about that, Mayor. Thank you for that one. And I'm just excited, just to see it happen. They'll start working on it in 2021, and it will come to fruition in 2022. Happy about that. I know that we do need a larger space, and with the purchase of this property, it'll give us that opportunity to get the larger space that we need. But I'm also excited about, guess what? East New York Street reconstruction. We did about 5 years ago, the part from Couch to Welsh, and now we're going to do from Welsh to Farnsworth. Long time coming, but the change is here. We're making it happen. I'm so excited about that. That too will start in 2021. But there's 2 other projects that we have, and that project is with the Montgomery Road Bridge. That project, we're going to reconstruct the bridge, and looking forward to seeing that come to fruition all the way up to Couch Road. Excited from Montgomery Road to Couch Road. Excited about that as well. And then we have East New York Street lighting from Ohio Street to Farnsworth. Long time coming, but some of the poles have started to decay and deteriorate. But this, we have to reconstruct them. Looking forward to having that. I'm sure we have LED lighting. I'm happy about that. Just good things happen. So we're talking about doing that from 2021 to 2022 as well. But I just wanted to mention about the STEM program. I'm so excited about that. I know that we've allocated $100,000 for that. But Mayor Mike Piggies did an almonds job in putting it all together. So I'm excited about that. That we know, and Alderman Garza know, that we do have kids that have now a mindset to make the drones, to make the, I say it over and over, but to make the robots. I'm happy about that, and to know that a child will learn if you teach them and show them the way. And these kids had an opportunity during the pandemic to learn how to make a drone. And we had the biggest kid of all, Alderman Sherman Jenkins, became a student at the Main Baptist Church working with the drone project. He did it. He was able to make it and to see how it worked. Great program. And I know that the money's allocated. I'm just waiting to see go to different, around the city, to different school districts that they'll be able to utilize that time as well. But I also want to thank David Smith with At-Risk Mentoring and Cynthia Miller with Good Samaritan Network, because they worked with that project for me to get it, to fruition, to make it worth. Wow, it was awesome for those kids, and they're always ready for more. I'm excited to announce too that I've done a senior computer program, and I asked one of the seniors, how did she feel about the program? I'll read what she said. She said, gave the seniors a chance to develop their thoughts, how to do it, and that was good. And she said that it also gave them a chance to figure out what they could do next. For those that don't know anything about the computers, that little bit that they learned at that time, and then the next time they will learn more, because computers are really hard for seniors because it's not something they had a chance to deal with. But I'm excited. Then they'll be able to pay their bills online or what have you, where they haven't had a chance to do that. But we also make sure some of them have smartphones. Can you imagine somebody 8 years old use a smartphone? I'm happy about that. My mother was 94. She would use a smartphone. Happy about that. But I want to mention too, that we did have our 33rd Dr. Martin Luther King Park Fun Fest. It was a success. I know we had several that weekend, like we've always had. It was a success. I'm happy about that. Even during the pandemic, the kids came. We had the cars to pull in, and the package went into the cars. It was successful. Happy. But I want to mention that At-Risk Mentoring and Good Samaritan with David Smith and Cynthia Miller has done many programs for me at Eastwood, low income, Rural Housing Authority property. And they've done the after school program, the homework program they've done. I love it. Movie night they've done. Whatever program the kids needed, the tutoring was something that was a must, because when you have, not saying the kids don't know, but we want to make sure they did know. And so David and Cynthia was able to tap into the school to get information from the school to be able to work with those children. They've done a great job with that. And I wanted to mention that during the summer, and during the pandemic, since there was no school, a lot of kids wasn't able to get their lunch. We were able to get lunch for the kids every day, 5 days a week. And on Friday, we was able to give boxes of food to our seniors. So the seniors had a chance to eat well as well. And I've gotten good reviews from the seniors because some of them said they didn't want to go out at all, but they were able to get some foods from that. So they had weekly senior boxes. Then I want to mention that David was so gung-ho and getting that mobile tech bus. We did the dedication a couple of weekends ago, the Friday, and he was so excited. He brought the bus here to the house for me to see it before he took it home. He was so glad about that. We are happy and excited that around Aurora, that kids will be able to learn how to utilize the computers that's on that bus and other programs as well. And all the things that he's done, even with the Tinkerworks, I'm so excited. Words cannot express. But I'd like to mention that I have been doing for a number of years now, a holiday musical, and different choirs and entertainment may come for that program, and the proceeds will go to our 2 food pantry, Marie Wilkerson Food Pantry as well as Interfaith Food Pantry. So we've done that and happy about it. But I got to say this. We did a beautification. I call it my neighborhood cleanup beautification, because there were some seniors that a gentleman called me on Friday. He said, I was there on October the 31st. It was a great cleanup. They had a chance to clean up all the things in their yard. You got some people during the pandemic, they've been able now to paint and to rehab, to do work they should have done beforehand. They've done it since the pandemic. So it's been great. And I'm happy about that. I'm just happy. I also want to mention that we was successful a couple of Sundays ago to do a street dedication for Servant George Rayford. The building that he has was 90 years old, but you all may remember at one time we had 3 basement churches, and one of them was in my ward, and we tore down that structure and put it in the Serenity Park over there on Union and 5th Avenue. We put that in and put a bench there so people just can go there and just have serenity. But his church, he rehabbed it and put the 2nd floor on a few years ago. And it was just a delight to do a street sign dedication for him, because he has been very active in a rural community. He's done many things. He's also known as the fish man, right, Richard? Everybody know him as a fish man. If y'all want the best fish, he had the best fish. But Richard didn't know he had sausage and bacon. Now, I don't eat red meat, but that sausage and bacon was mighty good, y'all. But also, he's known for his hospital ministry. He would go and visit the sick and shut. It didn't matter what race, creed, or color. He would go in and he would pray. So just well known in the community. It was worth him receiving that honor. I'm also grateful that I have been giving away turkeys for years. But last year, y'all say last year, we had the opportunity to start on the far west side with Alderman O'Connor and Alderman Carl Franco. We went to Constitution House and Centennial House giving away turkey dinners. And the mayor led the charge in giving away turkey dinners. In doing that, it didn't empower us. So we went from there to where the mayor grew up at. That was wonderful. The mayor went to his door and knocked on the door, and the gentleman came to the door. He was able to give him a turkey. It was so powerful. And then we went to, and that was in Alderman Emmanuel's ward. We went to Alderman Garza's ward to Sacred Heart to give the turkeys and dinners and everything. Then we went to Alderman Donnell's area in South Wind to give the turkeys and everything. Then we went to my area. We went to Maple Terrace, and then we went to Eastwood, Bay Baptist. We went to Impact Church. But my saying that is, I just love what was said afterwards, that each alderman had a chance to say something, but Alderman Franco just stole the show. He said he felt so good doing that. It made him feel good, just like it was when he got married and when he had his first child. That was very powerful. Just could not believe that the impact, I can believe that the impact was that great, but just to hear what he had to say was most powerful. Just glad to hear that. But also, we do another turkey giveaway this year. I've been doing it now about 30 years, but giving turkeys away, and Alderman Garza is giving turkeys away. We're just trying to help. But I know the mayor has been giving turkeys away. We're running around from one place to the other. And then the mayor was instrumental in getting Top Box here in Aurora, which is Chris Kennedy, who is John Kennedy, former President John Kennedy's nephew. And it's been successful. He's done it from the west side to the east side. And I joined in at Maple Terrace and also at Eastwood. We give away the dinners to those that need it and those that want. It was also supported by Blue Cross Blue Shield, right, Mayor? And also supported by, he said, I don't want to talk about this. Also, it was a great program, great program. But we're going to do it again on next Monday, the 26th, the 23rd. We're going to do it again on the 23rd. And I will mention, I know y'all, so I'm talking a lot, I do. I've been happy to have sponsored the Dr. Martin Luther King History Day, Dr. King's Day, with the Voices for Excellence. And this year we did it, and it was very successful. We noted that Elder Byron Berry, we were going to celebrate his day during that time. Byron was instrumental in helping us a lot with those programs. Now, we've done Cope with Kids. We started that in 2005, and later Archie Needham had a project that he had to make, right, Bill? Archie Needham had a project that he had to do, and instead of sending the money overseas, he called me and said he wanted to use that money to do the Colts here in Aurora. And we was able to do that and also join forces with the Kiwanis. So now we say Colts for Kids. And we've been able to do that for a number of years now. And on a couple of weeks ago, we took the Colts to the schools in my area, and I was joined with none other than the Dennis Wiggin, and we was also joined by Tina Bowman, joined with him as well to give away coats. And I'm excited. I'm just happy about things that we're doing and continuously to do. But one thing I do want to continue to do for those that listen, we do need representatives from the 7th Ward and other wards as well to join our boards and commissions. We do need that help. And I have to say this, y'all won't believe, but a couple of weeks ago, November 6th, a few of us aldermen was able to get an honor receive the Ministerial Alliance Award for community and faith service. And I was one that was chosen, and happy about that. It worked out really good for me because I've been involved. But also for those that don't know, for years now, I have sponsored through the various schools, Black History Program, all right, Richard, Black History programs at the various schools, along with the Latino history programs, Hispanic history program at the different schools. And we've worked it out real good. But I was also honored this year, I'm closing out, to go to Holy Angels Church to celebrate Miss Wilkerson's life and to share her story. I was able to take things with me that we picked up when we went to California for the programs that her daughter was doing. So I was able to share that with the students at Holy Angels Church. But I have to say, I'm happy to mention that the mayor was able to come and speak at the peace rally at Simmons Park because of the unrest that was happening. And the peace rally was sponsored by attorney Sharonda and her committee. And I'm also happy to say that I've been involved with the mayor's listening sessions, going to that and making sure that we hear what the community have to say. And I was able to do with some of the aldermen a reception for the officers to say thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to say I've done many, many neighborhood cleanups. We've done them for years, and I'm happy to continue to do that for the residents. They are happy with that, and that concludes my speech.
Well, thank you very much. And we got a lot of stuff going on in Ward 7, and you are doing an amazing yeoman's job out there in Ward 7 getting things done.
Thank you.
One thing Alderman Hart Burns talked about that, we all might have probably taken for granted last Thanksgiving and every Thanksgiving before that. As she pointed out, all the aldermen joined in, and it was a good feeling giving those food away to those in need around Thanksgiving in 2019. But as we all know, our Thanksgiving and our holidays here in 2020 aren't going to be as festive, at least not in the near future.
Right.
As you probably have heard, there are going to be additional mitigations put on the entire state of Illinois starting on Friday, based on the governor's orders and what he issued today at his press conference. Let me tell you this. I about a week and a half ago, I got an email from a young lady here in the city of Aurora who was very dissatisfied about this administration and how we've been handling COVID-19 and the warnings we've been giving and what we've been trying to do to get folks to take care of themselves. And her issue, based on her email, was that I should stand up more for our restaurants and bars because they can't be, why are they being closed down in other businesses? And that was a week and a half ago. And it seems like today that argument is moot based on the additional mitigations that are being put on the state and the other businesses that are being closed down. Not all of them totally, like restaurants and bars, other than outside dining and carry out and pick up, but mitigations nonetheless that'll affect business here in our community. And let me just say, to all that's listening and to our aldermen here, there's no playbook for what we're dealing with in this 100-year pandemic. This hasn't happened for 100 years. And matter of fact, when it happened 100 years ago, we weren't keeping the same records and preparing for it to happen 100 years later. Hopefully we're doing that now, and hopefully it doesn't happen for another 100 years or even longer. But I just want to say that this administration has done everything we possibly can for the protection of our community. We're pushing up on, or maybe over 10,000 people that have been diagnosed with COVID here in the city of Aurora. 140, the last count, maybe even more by now, that have died based on COVID. I'm not a perfect person by any means, and I can't say that all the decisions that I made were the exact right decisions, but they've always been the ones I thought were the best decisions to make based on the circumstances that we're dealing with and based on what we're being told by our healthcare officials of how we need to protect ourselves, our families, our friends, our next door neighbors, our entire community from this pandemic that has affected this entire world. Now, unfortunately, our politicians have made this partisan, where we got half the people believing that this isn't real, and the other half believing, even if it is real, it's not as serious as our healthcare officials have been making it. Now, I've gotten on in front of the cameras a number of times and said what we need to do is wear masks and wash our hands, and practice social distancing, and we've got to do more, we got to do better. And I don't say that to make it seem as though our residents are to blame for the continued rise in our COVID positivity, or to blame for the folks that are succumbing to COVID-19. I'm saying that so we can constantly remember what we need to do to protect ourselves, our families, our neighbors, our community from anything worse happening. Now, I was talking to my staff the other day, mayor's office staff, about the fact that I've been in front of the camera so many times saying these things and trying to warn our community of what we need to do. And I'll tell you this, I don't always agree with the governor, but when I don't agree with him and I reach out to him, and I have on a number of occasions, especially when it concerned restaurants and bars and shutting down, I said I needed data and evidence, because that's what we have to rely on. And he provided that data and evidence to me and all the other mayors that had issues. But again, that's a moot point, because now it seems like the positivity is continuing to rise. And I told my staff, I said, look, there's so many other Aurorans, so many other Illinoisans, so many other Americans. I've got cold fatigue, man. It's hard to keep talking about it. We just have, at some point, we got to rely on people to do the right thing. And that's all that I think I can hope for, the governor can hope for, any politician, any person in public service can hope for, any alderman here can hope for, that we do the right thing. And we do it for our family, for our friends, our neighbors. We do it for our community, even if we won't do it for us. And for those folks that recognize the reality of what we're going through, and many of us on this screen here that have actually been diagnosed with COVID and dealt with the pains and the uncertainty of this new disease that we still don't really know how it will affect us in the long term. Thank you for all that you do to recognize your responsibility to our community, to our neighbors, to our family and friends. Thank you for all you do. And for those of you who don't recognize the value yet and don't want to wear masks for whatever reason, because you heard some politicians say that you didn't have to or it didn't work, or don't want to social distance, or don't want to do what's necessary to protect our community as a whole, I want to read to you something that a nurse at Rush Copley wrote and posted that went viral over this past weekend. And I want you to look in her eyes and look at her face, and pain and frustration, tiredness that you see, weariness that you see. And I want to read her words to you, to everybody listening. So I don't have to say it anymore. We'll listen to Carol Williams. Just stop, she says. Stop thinking this is just like the flu. It isn't. Stop telling me the survival rate, so it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Stop saying healthcare workers signed up for this. We didn't. Stop ignoring science-based recommendations of masking, social distancing, hand hygiene, and not gathering in large crowds. They work. Stop kidding yourself that this isn't going to affect you or someone you love or know. It will. Stop thinking that only unhealthy people with pre-existing medical conditions or elderly people are the ones dying. They aren't the only ones. Stop being confident that if you get sick from anything, the resources to save you will be readily available. That may not be in this stage of the pandemic. Stop believing hospitals aren't being overrun because of massive influx of COVID patients at this moment. They are. Stop thinking if they make makeshift areas to house more patients, there will be properly trained staff to care for them. There may not be. Stop believing that all frontline healthcare workers are properly protected with PPE. Many across this country still are not. Stop ignoring that healthcare workers are also getting sick themselves. It's happening. Stop politicizing this virus. It's a public health crisis. If you are taking this pandemic seriously, doing the best you can to be safe and protect others, thank you. If you are not, please start now. I am begging you. Anyone that has asked me how things are going, I have given them my unfiltered COVID ICU nurse experience. No one wants to believe this is happening in their own backyard, but it is, and it isn't pretty. This picture is of me spending 5 hours inside a COVID positive ICU room, working to save a patient. In this moment, I felt defeated because I already knew what the outcome would be, even though it hadn't happened yet. The inability to save a patient despite doing everything you can is mentally exhausting. Now imagine doing that on repeat for 8 months and counting. Imagine watching a patient suffocating through a door while scrambling to get your PPE on because they inadvertently removed their mask. They desperately need to breathe, but you still need to protect yourself first. Imagine being the nurse crying with your patient when they realize that everything we're doing to help them still may not be enough and death is a real possibility. Imagine being the nurse and doctor telling a patient we need to put them on the ventilator because we have exhausted all other measures. Calling or FaceTiming their family so they can say, I love yous and encouraging words, while in our heads where we know for some patients, this is the last phone call they will have with each other. Imagine being the nurse or doctor holding that same patient's hand and stroking their heads weeks later while their ventilator is removed because they haven't improved, and their family then says goodbye and I love yous over FaceTime while they take their last breath. Now, please imagine being the COVID ICU patient. The breathlessness, pain, fear, loneliness, isolation, anxiety, hopelessness, and sadness. The need to use all of your energy just to breathe. The true realization you may not get better and facing your own mortality. We do our best to calm fears, comfort and connect while providing the best care we can in their most vulnerable moments. I promise anyone reading this that your healthcare team will fight for you with every ounce of their being to get you better until every measure has been exhausted, whether you are hospitalized with COVID or any other illness. Please do not discount all the lives lost or affected by this pandemic any longer. We need to come together as a country now. We need to come together. We need to work together now. Remember her words. Remember the anguish on her face and in her eyes. Remember the look of exhaustion. And recognize what we have to do for our family, for our friends, for our neighbors, and our community. With that, unless anyone has anything else you want to add, I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion by Alderman Howard Burns, second by Alderman Garza. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Yamas,
Yes.
Alderman Garza,
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos,
Yes.
Alderman Denell,
Yes.
Alderman Franco,
Yes.
Alderman Seville,
Yes.
Alderman Howard Burns. Yes. Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Bug,
Yes.
Alderman Lopshi,
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins,
Yes.
Alderman O'Connor,
Yes.
12-8.
This meeting is hereby adjourned. I'll see you all next week.